Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question for Jeff. Jeff, when is your birthday?
My birthday is this Saturday.
There you go. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll have already passed.
Right.
So do you want me to not?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Well, my birthday is this Sunday.
Shut up.
No, it's not.
Well, because I mentioned that my birthday was coming up, and Gabe was like, "Oh shoot, I forgot." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I forget birthdays all the time." And I was like, "Wait a minute, when's your birthday?"
And I was like, "Oh, it's last week."
No, it's not.
It's not. It's not at all. Yeah. So happy birthday, Jeff, to me, and I think I speak for all of our listeners as well.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah. What's going on other than your birthday?
Not much. Just the usual. Trying to get
the
yes. Just trying to get through work every day.
Yeah.
You know. How about you?
So a bunch of frustrating stuff. So I was telling you about this before we started recording, but I'm having issues with my 3D printer because I wanted to start 3D printing like terrain and stuff because we just had that episode about terrain. I got a Humble bundle that had a whole bunch of terrain and miniatures and stuff in it. And anyway, so I'm trying stuff out and I keep having issues. So hopefully I'll be able to get that sorted out soon. Because I'd like to get lots of cool stuff printed.
I can't imagine it's anything too crazy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you've been using the printer for a while now and it's been working fine.
No issues whatsoever. Yeah. And now everything I print. So for anybody who's familiar with 3D printers, I'm having issues with bed adhesion.
Yeah.
But it's weird because for like the last 2 months, no problems whatsoever.
Right.
And then suddenly everything I print has this problem.
You did get a new like little glass pane for it, but you would...
Well, but I mean, I've had that glass pane for the last 2 months.
Right.
So I don't understand why I had no issues with it then, but I'm having issues. If that is the issue, I don't know why I'm having issues with it now. Anyway, I'll figure something out. Also, so I'm taking my classes, for the next few weeks, I'll be complaining about my classes that I'm taking. My class is awful. It's not hard. It's basically just a summary of the last 2 classes that I took. So like, it's not hard at all. It's all stuff I already know.
Sure.
But the classes are 3 hours, 2 days a week. And the only schedule I was able to get is Monday and Wednesday morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. But I work nights, so I usually don't fall asleep until 6 a.m., which means that on days when I have class the next day, such as Sunday night and Tuesday night, I have to try to go to sleep early, usually end up just laying around in bed for a few hours, not getting anything done, get frustrated, get up, try to actually get something done for a little bit of time, feel tired, go lay back down, spend another hour, finally fall asleep, get 2 hours of sleep, and then go to class. But that's, okay, whatever. I'll put up with that. But my problem is we don't do anything in my class. Today was probably the worst example of it, but most of the time I will get to class. I try to get to class on time every day. But every time I get to class, we sit around for 20, maybe 30 minutes. The teacher's up there. He's just like looking through papers or whatever. And then, people stroll in whenever. After about 30 minutes, usually we actually start the class.
Right.
But then the teacher is constantly giving out breaks. So like, okay, go take a 15 or 20 minute break. And it's like, I don't want a 15 or 20 minute break. I want to finish what we're doing so we can leave early. And today was the worst. I am not exaggerating when I say in the 3 hours the class was supposed to be allotted, we spent maybe 1 hour doing anything related to class. We didn't do anything for the first 40 minutes. Then we had a quiz. So for the first 30 minutes, we just sat there. The teacher did not acknowledge us in any way. Then after 30 minutes, he told us all, okay, start studying. We're going to get started in 15 minutes. So then we finally got started on this quiz. The quiz took about 5 minutes. Like it was not hard and it was not long. It was like maybe 20 multiple choice questions. So it wasn't even like in a math class. If you don't know how to do it, maybe it takes you a long time to work through it. No, this was just, you either know the answer or you don't.
Right.
So it's not going to take you more than 10, 15 minutes. It took me about 5 minutes. And so he gave us this test. I turned mine in after a few minutes. 20, 30 minutes go by. I guess maybe there's one or two people that still have their test, their quiz. I don't know what they're doing with it. But then around the time the last person turns in their quiz, another guy strolls into class that has not been in class yet. The teacher acknowledges that he's there, not, that he's late. Nobody gives a crap that he's late.
Right.
And then he's like, hey, can I have 5 minutes before I start the quiz? And the teacher's like, yeah, go take your time. And it's like, no, don't let him take his time because then you're going to wait until he's done with his quiz before we can actually start class. Whatever. He finished his quiz. And then the teacher said, okay, go take a 20-minute break. And I'm like, I don't want to take a 20-minute break. I've been here over an hour. We haven't done anything. So then finally, the teacher starts his lecture, which is basically just reading off a sheet that he handed out to us. And then once we're done reading out over that sheet and he draws a couple things on the board, then he lets us go home 45 minutes early. And I don't mind going home 45 minutes early, but I could have slept an extra hour today.
Right.
With this class that is cutting right into the middle of my sleep schedule. I could have slept an extra hour before coming to class and missed nothing.
Right. But the day that you do, you miss something.
Exactly. So it's frustrating because I feel like it's wasting my time. I feel like it's wasting other people's time. If we had to, we could have combined like the last 3 class periods into one class period and gotten all of the relevant information. But the teacher insists on giving us breaks. He insists on waiting for 40 minutes to start the class. I don't understand that at all. I'm a person that I slack off from time to time. I'm no stranger to that. Sometimes when I don't want to do something, I will put it off. I'll procrastinate. But when you've got an entire class of people, many of which are doing this in a time that is very inconvenient to them,
right? Do
what you got to do, and then get it over with, and then let them go about their lives. It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah. I do remember a time when I was going to classes and working full time. Yeah. It's just very exhausting. So yeah, having you to go through all that trouble and losing all that sleep for you to just kind of sit there and go, well, I'm supposed to be here. Here I am because I promised I'd be here at this time, and here no one else is here, and or we're just waiting around for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to complain. That's Gabe's complaint corner right here.
Aw.
Da-da-da.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
if you weren't, I was gonna.
Right. So enough of that. You want to go ahead and get into this episode. I don't want to stall anymore, unlike a certain teacher that I have.
Gabe, we could have started this podcast 45 minutes ago.
I guess. All right. You want to go ahead and get started?
Sure.
Okay. So Jeff, I want you to imagine you've been having some rough times.
Okay. Sure.
You are.
I can hold it. Let me stretch my imagination. Yep, there it is.
Okay. You find yourself staring at a potted plant in the corner of the 13th floor of a building downtown.
Okay.
You sigh heavily. Your mouth twitches a little bit, and you focus on your shoelaces for the 3rd time in a minute. Jeff, a raspy voice says with concern.
Uh-huh.
You look up from the leather couch that you're lying on. The 30-foot-tall red dragon with round, wire-framed spectacles and a notepad reveals the breakthrough that he's been working on with his adventurous client for weeks. His thin red claws point to his head, and then to his heart, and then to you. And he says, "The dragon's hoard has been in you all along." That was submitted by a listener. That was submitted by TB via email. Dragon's Hoard intro.
Thanks, TB.
Yeah, you can submit Dragon's Hoard intros. Yes. We don't get very many of them, so we,
Gabe appreciates them.
I appreciate them. They're interesting. So,
and I appreciate them as well. I just know it's one less thing for Gabe to have to come up with.
Definitely. Every recording session has me sitting there for like 5 minutes. Okay, hang on, Jeff. Go take a 15-minute break.
Yeah.
So the item was also submitted by TB.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they meant for this to be related, but I figured it could.
Oh gosh, I hope not, because I think you told me what the theme of the item is.
I mean, I guess not really. Maybe in theme, not necessarily in practice. So the item that in question, again submitted by TB via email, is the Last Hope of the Faithless. So this is an interesting item. They mentioned that they are not super familiar with making magic items, and I think that might be apparent, not in a bad way, just that I don't think I've ever seen a magic item that does something like this.
Sure.
So this is a gold necklace with an 8-sided star pendant. Each point of the star is made of a precious gem: a pearl, a ruby, a citrine, a yellow topaz, an emerald, a sapphire, an amethyst, and an onyx. And here's where the mechanics get a little interesting. When a godless player, maybe that's godless character. Let's not judge our players just when a godless character drops to 0 or fewer HP. So that's like when you are a character that is not a character, when your character does not worship a deity,
right? And
your character dies, essentially. I guess it doesn't have to be when you die. It's when this particularly is when you get to 0 HP.
Okay.
But it says also you could be a paladin, cleric, monk, or warlock who is not fully convinced of the reality of their beliefs. And small tangent, I think it would be interesting to someday talk about whether or not you can play an atheist character in D&D.
Sure.
So I hear a lot of people with very strong opinions on this, and I disagree with basically all of them. We'll get to that on another episode. Anyway, so when you are a godless character that falls 0 HP, on the first failed death saving throw, you see an array of 8 doors before you, where each door is one color of the pendant. On the second failed death saving throw, you roll 2d8, re-roll any duplicates. You're not looking for a total, you're looking for 2 different numbers between 1 and 8.
Okay.
The 2 resulting numbers are the doors which remain in front of the dying character. The other 6 doors fade away. So you have a near-death experience, you pass out, you see these 8 doors on the first failed save. On the second failed save, 6 of them melt away and 2 of them remain.
Okay.
On the final death saving throw, you roll, I guess, a D2, so like an even or an odd.
Sure.
And then you pick one of the 2 doors based on what you rolled. So like odd results in the first door, even the second door. Which of the doors you end up with, a different thing happens to you when you die, because this is on a third failed death saving throw. So at this point, your character has died.
Okay.
So the DM can assign, these don't have numbers. The DM can assign whichever numbers they want. But here are the 8 doors and what happens when you end up with any of them. So the first one is white. So I guess that is the pearl door. The character becomes a ghost. So like when you die, instead of going to an afterlife or whatever, which depending on your campaign setting, you might not be able to do if you don't worship a deity. Like in Faerun, you can't. You get stuck in this like wall of lost souls or something for all eternity. It's real weird. I think in one of the Neverwinter Nights games, there's a quest where you have to go retrieve someone's soul from the wall. Anyway.
Cool.
So you become a ghost. Same stats as a specter. And that lasts until your character is resurrected. So you can be brought back.
You're just floating around as a specter.
Floating around as a ghost. And there's a little line at the end of this that sort of clarifies this, but all of these, I think it's left up to the DM as to how the players learn about this. It's not just that maybe with the ghost, you would just pop up as a ghost, but some of these are a little different, and it might be that your character dies, and then over the course of the next few days or whatever, this other thing happens.
Sure.
Anyway, we'll get to that. So white, your character becomes a ghost. Red, your character becomes an imp until resurrected. So you become a demon.
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Orange, character becomes a monk who has just awakened from a deep meditation. New monk character sheet made at same character level.
What?
So your character dies, and then I guess your soul has actually been the soul of a monk that was in meditation, and that monk wakes up.
Okay.
Kind of like in the movie Inception, where like when you wake up, you might have been doing something else in your dream, but when you wake up, you're someone else or something. Maybe that's not Inception, whatever it is. Anyway, so that was kind of interesting. It's basically you make a new character.
But you make a new character who is a monk.
Right. And maybe you're able to meet up with the party quickly, maybe not.
Right.
That's what I was saying. Like maybe some time has to pass before this becomes apparent to everybody.
Sure.
Yellow, your character encounters a god. Make a new paladin or cleric character sheet made at the same level. So your character I think the idea here is that your spirit encounters a deity. The deity brings your character back to life, but you have to then worship that deity. So like you have to serve them. Maybe even because it doesn't specify an alignment. Maybe it is that like an evil deity says, "You serve me now.
Yeah,
go back and live and do my deeds," or something less nefarious.
That's pretty neat.
I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
If you roll green, the character's spirit inhabits another character's weapon until resurrected.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Doesn't say here, but I imagine that could be another character in the group. Maybe not another character in the group.
Sure.
Maybe somebody else in the world now has an intelligent weapon that is urging them, "Hey, go meet up with my buddies."
That's how intelligent weapons are made. Oh, God.
Oh, no. Didn't we have an episode where the item was there was like a sword that was intelligent that was trying to find a way to swap places with the wielder?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, so yeah, character spirit inhabits another character's weapon. Blue, character encounters a patron, so like a warlock's patron, an archfiend, an archfey, all, a hexblade, whatever. New warlock character sheet made at same character level. So a lot of these are just you make a new character with a specific class. And, hey, if everybody's on board for that, I think that's an interesting way to play the game.
Yeah.
Purple, character is reincarnated as an animal. New druid character sheet made at the same character level. Now, I'm wondering if this is that the spirit is now in the druid, or maybe you make a druid and you are the druid's, your previous character is the druid's animal companion.
Sure.
So, like, it's not that this druid character has your spirit in them. It's that there's this druid that's just been going around for a long time. And then, oh, look, I have a new animal friend. And this animal friend says it just died in the battle of blah, blah, blah. And it wants to meet up with the rest of his party.
Or it's like it's an animal who took levels in druid, but instead of having wild shape, it has like humanoid shape. Yeah.
Has civilized shape.
Sure. Has I say shape.
Yeah, and then the final one is Sayonara Forever. Now, this isn't that you're just gone. It is... Actually, it is. Sorry. New character sheet made at two levels lower.
Oh.
So your character is just gone.
Oh.
So I think that this item is interesting because it is not a beneficial item necessarily.
Right.
It sort of does. It has a relatively high chance of letting you immediately come back to life, albeit as a different character.
Sure.
But I almost feel like this is less something that a character would wear intentionally and more something that they would find it and they would wear it. Maybe it has another benefit that they're wearing it for instead, and they don't realize that it has this ability to bring you back from the dead until it happens.
Yeah.
Or something. Also, I'm curious, does the necklace retain its power after it's been used, or is it one use?
Sure. Yeah.
Because what if this is a cursed item and every time someone dies with it, the necklace gets passed on to somebody else, not realizing that the last person that wore it got reincarnated as a sword or something.
Yeah. Or like it's tied to that soul, so like no matter, like they can't die, they can this can happen to them.
Interesting.
So like they have to keep basically rerolling characters every time they die.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting. I would be down for playing a character like that.
See, I like this because this gives it like this is a way to deal with death in a more mechanical way.
Yeah.
Which I like, and like I've had the ideas of like when you die you come back immediately, but in like as a different character, but you're still in like the same equipment or something.
Oh yeah, I think we talked about that.
So like you basically you're immediately come back to life, but you're a different character now. So it's like, well, okay, your character dies, so there's meaning to death, but you're now reincarnated as this new character, but in the same like physical space.
Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty neat because I like the idea if it is the same consciousness, but they're like being reincarnated. And you kind of have to deal with like what the dice give you. Like, you wanted to be a cool, fighter with a broadsword, but well, now you're a monk.
Yeah.
And you just kind of got to deal with it. Which, like, I, as a experienced player, would love for that to happen because that's just neat.
Yeah.
But for like newer players or players who get like who like are set on a specific way for the characters to be.
Yeah.
I can see that being like, well, that kind of sucks. I wanted to be the fighter.
Right. Yeah, I do not advocate for forcing somebody to play a character they don't want to play.
Right.
But for an experienced player, if this is something that they have made it clear they're okay with, I think this would be an interesting addition to a campaign.
Yeah, this would definitely pique my interest for sure as a player, just being like, oh, okay, yeah, I wake up as a monk and I'm now really confused, but
right.
Well, let's roll with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's an interesting item. Definitely got some potential. Again, I would probably consider it more of a cursed item than maybe a voluntary item.
Sure.
But hey, it's a cool concept. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep. All right, well, that'll do it for the Dragon's Horde. So once again, thank you, TB, both for the item and for the intro. Mm-hmm. Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com. They can also join us at our Interparty Discord.
Correct.
There you can even submit Dragon Horde intros.
You can, yeah. You can submit just about everything on there.
Yep.
So come join us on there and become a part of the discussion. We've got some fun discussion on there. All right, well, before we go any further, we have a giveaway today.
Yeah.
As always, we're giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs, courtesy of Goblinstone. I think I've forgotten to mention that a couple times in previous weeks.
It's a giveaway. It's free stuff.
I guess.
Accept it.
I guess I just assume everybody listens to our show all the time, which I'm sure is not the case.
Right.
But yeah, Chapel on the Cliffs is a great adventure from Goblinstone. It's a low-level 5th edition D&D adventure with lots of spooky themes, lots of chapels, lots of cliffs. A chapel that might even be on a cliff.
Yeah.
In fact.
I would hope. I would hope.
Right. So, so we're giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs. Who is our winner today?
Our winner today is Matt B.
Whoa, winner.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes. Congratulations, Matt B. It's not Matt Berry, but if it was Matt Berry, the actor / singer, I would love that he listens to our show. Let's assume that it is Matt Berry. Thank you, Matt Berry.
Thanks, Matt Berry.
I loved you on the IT Crowd, and Toast of London is one of my favorite things. My wife listens to your albums all the time. Anyway, congratulations, Matt B. You should get that in your email within the next few days. If you don't, let us know. Be sure to check your spam folder, all that stuff. And be sure to leave Goblinstone a review, because they're a great company, and I'm sure they can benefit from your thoughts, whether positive or negative. And Jeff, if anybody wanted to enter this drawing, how would they do that?
They can send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line.
Yes, just like British singer-actor Matt Berry, you can enter this drawing by sending us an email.
Yeah.
So also I want to tell everybody that our show is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon page at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We've got some rewards on there for patrons. We've got outtakes. We've got fiction that I write every month. We've got bonus episodes every month. We've got a monthly Roll20 game. I will write about your character for my my short stories. Lots of cool stuff on there. Check it out and see if anything appeals to you. You can help out the show and you can get some cool stuff in return. And then just one last thing, go check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy at critacademy.com is a great show where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They also have been making some products that are on the DMs Guild. I mentioned a few months ago, I helped them write a Unearthed Tips and Tricks book that's on there. That's really, really good. I think that one is at least a copper bestseller. It might be silver by now. I could be wrong.
I think they were definitely getting close to silver last time we talked to them.
Yeah. And then they've got a few other things they've come out with recently. They've got like a barbarian path, a sorcerer path, a bard path. I think Ian is coming out with a druid path sometime soon. So a bunch of stuff on there. Some of them are pay what you want. Some of them are like $1 or $2 or something.
Sure.
They've all got great reviews, great, they're like, those are already in the bestsellers already. So,
right.
So yeah, they've got some great stuff on DM's Guild. Go check all of that out. Great stuff. Also check out D&D Character Lab, where Garen and Dan make characters every week and then pit them against each other to debate whose is better. And I don't think they're making episodes anymore, but Brute Force and Ignorance was an actual play podcast on the network as well. It was a lot of fun to listen to, so go check them out as well. Enough of that. You want to jump into some questions, Jeff?
Sure. Our first question comes from John Gemstone on Facebook. How do you recover from a bad story?
Yeah. This is this is kind of a complex question. Like, I think there's a lot to what can lead to a bad story, and also probably a lot of corresponding solutions. I don't know if necessarily we'll like go down like a list of those sorts of things.
I mean, I technically only have ever made bad stories.
I disagree, but go on.
I always have good ideas, but like, you know, fleshing them out into a good story, that's a whole nother thing entirely. Although I'd say like identifying that you are doing a bad story, that's important and a step in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, that definitely is an important part. If you don't realize that you have a bad story, you're not going to be able to recover from it.
Right. And
if you do realize it, I think that you can probably recover from any bad story if you are trying to recover from a bad story.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess I'll try to summarize. John did tell us what kind of situation he was in, and I'll try to summarize it. I think there were a few parts to it. One of them was, I think there was like a monster that he wanted to be like a big recurring threat in the campaign.
Sure.
And either he didn't realize that one of the players would be able to make a knowledge check to realize what that monster was, or maybe it was a mistake or something, but one of the players realized what the thing was, and then they were able to kill the monster, I think. And then because the monster was dead, the guy that was controlling the monster ended up having to go ahead with a plan that he was going to put off till later in the campaign. And then everything just kind of went from bad to worse.
Right,
player character got killed. The party wasn't really sticking together as well. Everybody was disagreeing on everything, and then it all kind of spiraled out from there.
Gotcha.
I think is what is the situation that was going on. If not, I'm sure that a similar situation has happened in at least somebody's game out there.
Right. And it sounds like it's sort of like what's the term, linchpin, where it's like there's a single thing that once it's pulled, it's like, oh, okay, everything comes unraveled.
Yeah. So the like we said, the biggest issue here is recognizing that, okay, something needs to be fixed.
Right.
Once you realize that something needs to be fixed, the easiest / hardest solution is to sit down with the players and talk to them and say, hey guys, this game kind of went off the rails. Where do we go from here? Right. Because it might be that the players were enjoying the game and they would like to still keep going with the game, and then you guys can figure out ways to work out the problems and move from there. It might be that they weren't really enjoying it to begin with, and you should probably just start off from the beginning. Some of these solutions for this are going to be start over, scrap it and start over. I know that sucks, especially when everybody's really invested. I know I've talked in the past about, there was a game I was in where we would switch up DMs, and then at one point, one of the DMs did something that basically destroyed the world. And all the rest of us DMs, like, I was supposed to run next. And I'm like, how do I run a game now that everything is gone? Everything that our characters have built anything up, it's all gone. Oh. Sometimes the answer is to scrap it and start over. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, though.
Just take an Etch-a-Sketch to the world and just shake it up.
Exactly. So talk with the players. Really, I think that's probably the first thing you should do regardless, but that is hard to do. It's hard to say, hey guys, I screwed up.
Right.
And even if it wasn't necessarily the DM's fault, I mean, I think that some fault probably lies in the hands of multiple people in the group, but talk to your players. It's hard to do because it is hard to say, like, okay, some mistakes were made, how can we solve this? But if you can talk with the players, talk to them, figure out exactly what went wrong and where it went wrong. And another reason why this might be hard to do is because as a DM, it's very easy to feel like you want to keep all your cards close to your chest, if that makes any sense. Like you don't really want to let the players past the illusion. You want the players to think that the DM is always in control. The DM always, it's got everything handled. Nothing can get out of hand because the DM is there. But hey, DMs are people.
Right.
People make mistakes. Sometimes there are things that you just can't account for. Some things that you didn't realize were coming, and then before you know it, everything has fallen apart.
Right.
So talk to the players, figure out what people were enjoying, and then try to find like a little point you can rewind to.
Sure.
You can retcon stuff. As long as the players are okay with it, go ahead and retcon whatever you have to retcon. But if you say to the players, hey guys, this is going nowhere, I need to fix this. Is it okay if we rewind back to 2 sessions ago before you learned what this monster was or something.
Yeah.
And then as a DM, you could say, okay, hey, it's not that monster you thought it was. It's this other monster. But you can change things. You can change things and then just go around the problem.
Yeah. It's hard to rewind to that point. Like, you can't necessarily say like, oh, you don't know this thing that you know now.
Yeah.
But maybe but like you said, you could just have it like it's a different thing instead. So
Sure.
like you guys did learn something. It's just not what I said it was originally.
Yeah.
And then, maybe you'll bring that back later and be like, oh, okay.
It's going to be hard to do. And
Yeah.
especially like you were saying, the players can't unlearn what they know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, especially if you were relying on like a twist, if you'd want the players, hey, forget that this guy you're friends with, forget that he was a bad guy.
Right. No,
it's not going to happen.
Betray you.
Exactly.
Don't be suspicious of him. You're being suspicious. Stop it.
So if you know, let's say that is the problem. It's that like there is a bad guy that was posing as a friend and you accidentally let it slip too early. If that is the bad story you're trying to recover from, I would say scrap that plot line. Just tell the players, okay, let's rewind to before this guy revealed himself as a bad guy. He's dead. He's gone. He's out of there. Get him out of there entirely.
Right.
Do not try to rely on that anymore because it's asking too much of your players to give you to give you the goodwill of acting like they don't know that this guy is a bad guy and then playing into his hands. Like, don't do that.
No. You rewind, tell them to forget everything. And if they do anything that would act as suspicious, just say that they're metagaming. Just be like, no, stop it, guys.
I mean, you could do that. That is something that you can do, but don't. If it is something like, I don't know, there was like a prophecy or something that the players were going to learn, and then it was going to lead to the rest of the campaign. And then again, maybe you let that slip early, or maybe you introduce some information that would contradict what would later be the prophecy. Mm-hmm. Similarly, I would say scrap the prophecy. Come up with a different prophecy. Mm-hmm. A different prophecy that also works. No matter what, you're going to have to do some work. It's not going to be easy to recover from bad story. But if you are willing to put in some effort, maybe crowdfund some solutions, not necessarily from the party, but if you know anybody that is a writer or is also in their own D&D game or something, say, hey, I've written myself into this corner. What are some things you would do in this situation?
Right.
As a writer, I mean, as a person who does, every month at least I write a short story. I do often find myself running into problems where like I start to write something because I thought it would be a good idea, and then when I get to a later point in the story, it doesn't quite work. Sometimes the whole thing is bad. There haven't been any times where I've been like, well, actually, maybe there has been. So I had a story a few months ago, largely inspired by the movie Hero. If anybody has seen the movie Hero.
Oh, yeah.
With Jet Li. It's a pretty good movie. The premise of the story is that basically a guy with a gun in a fantasy world, a guy with a gun shows up in the king's bedchamber. It's called The Gunman in the King's Bedchamber. Mm. And he has a gun to the king's head. And he's like, hey, king, you screwed over all my people. I'm going to kill you. And then through the story, he sort of like explains to the king what the king's transgressions are and also what it took for him to build this gun, because this gun is like, it's a dangerous weapon. And with the intention of, I'm explaining to you why I'm going to kill you and then I'm going to kill you. And when I first wrote this thing, there were a lot of problems that I had. To me, it made sense. To me, it made perfect sense. Whenever I'm writing, what I'm writing makes perfect sense to me. There are no problems whatsoever. It's all perfect. But then our wonderful friend Noah Wizard has been my unofficial editor, and he'll read things over if there's problems. He'll even sometimes go sentence by sentence and be like, this sentence works, this one doesn't. Maybe swap this around. Maybe put this in there. And he got through most of it or all of it and was like, a lot of this doesn't work. And he pointed out which things didn't work. And some of the things were pretty integral to the story. Mm-hmm. And it was really frustrating to me, but I can't argue with the fact that I wrote a bad story. A lot of the story was bad. So I ended up having to rewrite huge portions of it. I had to like cut out entire plot threads in this thing. I had to rework things because the tone I was going for was completely wrong. I didn't even make it clear whether you were supposed to sympathize with the gunman or the king or both or neither. It was not clear to me as the writer. It was perfectly clear because I was the one writing it. It was coming out of my head, but it was to a person who was not writing it. It made no sense.
Sure.
And it was very difficult to go through and cut out things that I thought were a very important part of the story. But with the guidance of Noah telling me, try it this way, try it this way, try it this way. And then taking that and then finding ways to keep through lines going through the story and such. I think it's one of the better stories that I've written.
Cool. So
it's hard to do. Sometimes you have to scrap things that you were really, really hoping would be good. If you were hoping for a reveal later in the campaign and you've made it very difficult or impossible to do that, scrap the reveal. Make that not a reveal at all. If you could either have it be that the person that was going to turn out to be a bad guy isn't a bad guy, or you could make it be that it's not a secret that he's a bad guy. The guy that was, their friend, have it be that like very early on, the players already know. So maybe clue in the characters and then see how the players are going to react to that.
Sure.
So try and maybe give the players more information and then try to gauge their reactions and then build with the scraps of what you have left over, build it up based on what the players want to do. Mm-hmm. I hope some of this makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
this is definitely not an easy thing to accomplish.
It's also a very broad question.
Right.
So it's without a specific, I know John did give us like some specifics, but without knowing more, I can't really give something that like will save Jom's campaign or will save, listener B's campaign or whatever. But just be willing to listen to your players, be willing to talk to your players, be willing to get rid of stuff that you thought was important. Mm-hmm. Like editing is a thing. A lot of the time I've heard like a lot of writers when they're writing their first novel, they'll scrap half of it or more. Sometimes, like heck, the very first novel that I ever wrote, I guess the only novel I've ever finished, is essentially scrapped for I think I've gotten to it on an episode long ago. I don't want to get back into it, but basically I am probably never going to do anything with that novel, but it's not wasted.
Right.
Because I learned a lot, and I think my writing now is way better than it was then and wouldn't be where it is now if it weren't for having written that like 100,000 words or whatever.
Sure.
So if you do end up having to scrap a campaign entirely, that sucks, but you'd still learn something from it. You learn not to make the mistakes that you made, hopefully.
Yeah. You could always use bits and pieces of failed stories.
Absolutely.
Like you had a couple good ideas in there. They weren't well executed at the time, but now that you've learned more, you can, use those in future adventures.
Mm-hmm. I didn't actually end up doing this, but here's the thing I wanted to do in D&D. Mm-hmm. So a long time ago, the very first campaign I ever ran, Jay was playing a character named Krim. He was a human fighter. Steve was playing a gnome wizard, I think, named Go.
Yeah, I know Go.
Our friend John was playing a half-orc barbarian. I think Jamie was a something, like a half-elf something, or I don't remember. So anyway, we had one campaign. I was flying by the seat of my pants. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Sure.
But one plot line that I was going to have like the campaign revolve around was I'm a big fan of the Sword of Kos. We talked about it on an episode of the podcast a long time ago. It's an artifact. It's like a super evil sword that has the spirit of this vampire in it. Blah, blah, blah. Cut off Vecna's hand, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a really cool sword. I mainly liked the picture of it in the 3rd edition DMG. It was really cool. And so my idea was I'm going to make a campaign where a short way into the campaign, the players encounter an evil sorcerer, and I came up with the name Taraseth. Actually, I didn't come up with that name. That was the name given to an NPC in one of the first games I ever played in. But I took the name Taraseth, and I gave that name to this evil sorcerer. And then I was going to have that evil sorcerer find the Sword of Kos. Who knows what was going to happen after that? That's really as far as I think. I think I decided then the players are eventually going to defeat him and destroy it. And I came up with how they were going to destroy it. But I didn't really think about what I hadn't run a game before. I didn't really know what any of that was going to look like in an actual game. But I remember talking to Jay about this before the campaign started because I was a new DM. I was really excited. I was like, oh man, you're going to meet this evil sorcerer. He's going to get this cool sword. And then this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And then as a result, I'm not saying this is Jay's fault because, hey, he was a new player, but he metagamed the crap out of it. So when he met this guy named Taraseth, he was immediately hostile towards him.
Sure.
In every way possible. Like the guy hired him to do something and Jay threw an acid at him or something.
What?
I don't know. I don't even remember. I'm sure there were mistakes made on both sides. So, but as a result, it was very difficult to make this guy a cleverly implemented villain when immediately one of the players knows he's the big bad of the campaign and treats him like he's the big bad of the campaign.
Right.
And anyway, so that campaign didn't go very far. I didn't really know what I was doing. Eventually I think I got busy with school, scrapped that. Then I started playing with Chris, and then I started a new campaign with Jay and Steve or something. Anyway, it went from there. But it was a big learning experience, this campaign was. And there was a time a couple years later, I was going to be running a game for some friends of friends through high school. I think they were either I was just out of high school and they had just started high school, I think, but they were friends of friends, basically. And I found out that before we started this campaign, Steve told me his sister was going to be in that campaign. I guess he has a younger sister that was in the same group of friends. And she was apparently one of the people that was going to be in this campaign. And I thought, I wonder how I can use that. Now, spoiler, she ended up not being in the group.
Right. Okay.
So it ended up not being a thing. And besides, I only played with this group a few sessions anyway. But I thought, what's the best way that I can make use of the fact that Steve's sister is in a campaign that I'm running and I used to run for Steve? So the idea I came up with was, how about I run a campaign where the players meet someone named Taraseth? And I describe him as being like the sorcerer was in this campaign that Steve was in. And then my hope would then be that Steve's sister would tell him, hey, so we were playing this game with your friend Gabe.
Yeah.
We met this guy named Taraseth. Then my hope was that Steve would be like, oh, no, he's a bad guy. But then the twist is that he's not a bad guy. Except that then he would turn into a bad guy later on. He would be a good guy, but then he would get this sword and the sword would turn him evil or something.
A triple twist.
Exactly. So that was sort of my plan. My plan was to use the players' expectations of who the villain was going to be to trick them into not knowing who the villain was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then I guess trick them into the villain actually being the villain. That's something you could do if the players have already been, if the story's already been spoiled. If you don't want to completely scrap everything related to that story, play off the fact that the players might think that you are still going to do this thing. If you are in need of a twist, have it be that there is no twist or that the twist is something completely different.
It's like, oh no, that was my evil twin.
I guess. So I don't know. That's kind of a cheap move though. Don't do that a lot.
Right. The idea is to recover from the bad story so that you can get through it and then make a better story next time.
Yeah.
So this is so that it's not like a big waste or you're not bumming everybody out or something.
Sure. Because that's the thing. You don't want, if everybody is upset at how the story is going. Well, actually, hold on. Let's rewind here for a moment.
Okay.
Are the players upset with how the game is going?
Sure, yeah. In talking to the players, is it that, are they not, do they think it's a bad story or is it just you thinking it's a bad story?
Yeah.
Because
I didn't even think of this until just now, but let's say you are running a game, it all goes off the rails, the bad guy's plan ends up being completely stupid or something and doesn't work or whatever, or for whatever reason, the evil plot has failed. Maybe run with it.
Sure.
Maybe and then that if the players realize that the entire thing was foiled because one of them made a knowledge check or whatever, then that could be really cool.
Yeah.
They could be like, hey, we we derailed the entire campaign because, we overcame a challenge the DM didn't expect us to.
Right.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum, if things get really bad because of what the players did, I mean, if there is a way to make something good come of that, you could still roll with that too. Let's say here's an example from the Age of Worms.
Mm-hmm.
In the Age of Worms, there's an adventure around the middle where the players are in this big gladiatorial match.
Okay, yeah.
Part of the plot is that one of the people involved in making this gladiatorial thing happen is planning on setting off this evil ritual that essentially turns everyone in the arena into zombies or like into undead.
Right.
That was part of his plan. Now, of course, the players are given ample opportunity to foil that so that it doesn't happen. But let's say the players are goofing around and they mess up and they don't realize what the plot is, and so they don't stop it. What if that happens and now the campaign is in a world where there's thousands of undead inside the middle of the most populous city in the world, and if they don't do something about it, it's going to spread and the whole world's going to be destroyed. I would play in a post-apocalyptic game if I was one of the players that led to it becoming post-apocalyptic. Yeah. I think that sounds badass.
Right. I think that's a fun time. Like,
now it's hard to do.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I do. Yeah. Like, I like the idea actually of going to like pre-made campaigns and like figuring out how to make them go wrong and then sort of write different alternative, like, alternate, like endings and stuff.
That's really cool.
Rewrite the Age of Worms, but like make it so that they're intended to fail at a certain point.
Yeah. Like when I ran the first adventure of the Age of Worms for our patrons and then everybody died.
Right. Yeah. Like that. See, you already did it. Yeah.
I already did it. Exactly. I'm way ahead of you, Jeff. So yeah, like I said, that's work, but that could be really cool. The players screw up and everything gets real bad. And now the campaign changes to being a survival game instead of a, sword and sorcery game or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I say try to roll with it.
Yeah.
If you can, try to roll with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're comfortable, roll with it.
Yeah. I can't really think of much else advice to give other than just generally just talk to your players, try to roll with it.
Yeah.
If you have to scrap a big chunk of the game in order to make it work, scrap a big chunk of the game.
Yeah. You might need to do like a rewind or like a scrapping
I would even say like if something, let's say in the campaign where I was playing in the one DM Destroy the World, if someone had proposed the idea, hey, let's just start over from the beginning with these same characters and see where the campaign goes, I'd be down for that. If you like if you're already familiar with the characters and you would like to just see those characters go on more adventures, maybe the players would be interested in just starting over at level 1 with the same characters.
Sure. And at that point, like the characters themselves are more established within the group of players.
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit easier getting started, first couple like levels or adventures, you're kind of like not sure where you're going with the character. And
sure.
People don't know who your character is, from their character's perspective. But at that point, you're an established group in a metagame sense.
Yeah.
So like when you start anew, you can basically start anew from the perspective of like, oh, we all know each other.
Yeah.
We all know each other well enough to know like our personalities. So you can move on from there a lot better.
So like think of it as a reboot.
Yeah.
Rather than a new campaign.
Gotcha.
Like you're starting over with the same characters. If you want to make some changes to your characters, you can, and the story is going to be different, but it can include elements from the previous campaign, like with the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. Say what you want about them. I think it was a valiant effort.
Yeah.
I think they did some cool stuff with those, but it's to an extent, it's the characters you like doing some things that are similar to what they did before, but through a different person's lens.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if it's someone else saying, if I were to do Star Trek, this is how I would do it.
Star what?
Huh?
What'd you say?
I said Star Trek. I was talking about Star Trek, not Star Wars. Did I say Star Wars?
I don't know. I
was talking about like with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto.
Right. Well, because you said J.J. Abrams and Star, and I was like, wait a minute.
Okay. Good point. I meant Star Trek. Like Star Trek and then Star Trek Into Darkness, then Star Trek.
Yeah, because I was thinking about Force Awakens because that's J.J. Abrams.
That is. Okay. I should have been more.
No, that's my fault.
Anyway,
I'm getting my J.J. Abrams Star movies crossed.
Right, star-crossed movies.
Oh, ooh.
There you go.
Okay.
So think of it as a reboot. I would say that would be in most campaigns, I would say that's a preferable, for me at least, that would be a preferable alternative to just starting a new campaign.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Good luck to you, John. Hopefully, this was actually asked quite a while ago, so hopefully this is in any way useful.
It's like sitting patiently, waiting for help, and every session, the players show up and are like, well, so what's happening? We found out the twist.
And he's like, hang on. And he tunes his radio to the podcast channel and he listens in, and it's us talking about a dagger that turns into a bunch of daggers. He's like, oh, dang it.
Darn it.
One of these days. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. If anybody gets any help out of that, I would love to hear how your campaign went wrong and how we hopefully helped it get back on track.
Right.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we still have our weekly social media questions. Last week's question was, do you have any experiences playing MMORPGs? Mm-hmm. If so, what is a fun memory you have? So do you recall what your answer was, Jeff?
I had played Star Wars Galaxies and made a lot of good friends on there, so I remember that fondly. And then we played World of Warcraft for... Mm-hmm. I know me and you and Steve and Jay all played it together at some point.
Yeah.
But I was going on and off on WoW for a while.
I played WoW. I played EverQuest for a little bit before World of Warcraft came out, and you just reminded me of a fun memory from World of Warcraft. So it was the four of us friends, and you could have a group of up to 5, or at least at the time you could have a group of up to 5. And so like dungeons, you would want to have 5 people. So we would often have to get a 5th rando in order to be in our, and we were in our own guild, I should have said.
Right.
The Keepers of the List was the name of our guild.
Right.
Which is the name of the novel I was writing for a while. The second novel I was writing. And there was a time we were going through, there's a dungeon called the Stockades. And we were going through this dungeon, and there was we were talking in our guild chat. So like the 4 of us could talk to each other without our teammate knowing.
Right.
And
I'm laughing because I'm pretty sure I know what you're
I'm sure you do. And so over the years, there have been various celebrities that have played World of Warcraft. I don't know if Mr. T actually played, but Mr. T had an ad for World of Warcraft. He did.
Yeah, World of Warcraft had a series of ads where they had different celebrities or well-known people that were supposedly in playing the game, and they're like, hey, I'm I think Aubrey Plaza did one.
I think Aubrey Plaza. I think Mila Kunis was another one.
Yeah.
Supposedly played World of Warcraft at some point. Well, somehow one of us in the group started the rumor that John Lithgow, aged actor John Lithgow, serious actor John Lithgow, also Third Rock from the Sun actor John Lithgow, played World of Warcraft. But not only did he play World of Warcraft, he was in our group.
Right.
Somehow someone decided to start acting like the 5th member of our group was John Lithgow.
So we're not trying to get someone to think that one of us is John Lithgow.
We are all in on the joke. So among us that are in on the joke, we are joking amongst ourselves about how John Lithgow is on our team, which clearly John Lithgow was not actually on our team. But this is all in guild chat, so it was just the 4 of us. The 5th member of our team was not privy to any of this until I started making vague references to the TV show Third Rock from the Sun in hopes that maybe this person actually was John Lithgow.
Right. Oh my goodness.
It was not John Lithgow. This person had no idea what I was talking about, and luckily it was a short dungeon. So
oh my goodness.
That's a fun memory that I had playing World of Warcraft.
It's not like, oh, hey, John, how's it going? No, we're just talking amongst ourselves.
Right.
As if the 5th person is John Lithgow.
I was like, hey, do you remember that episode where Sally and Don went to the I don't know. I don't even know where I'm. Anyway,
been a while.
Yeah, been a while. Good times. So we got a few responses. Most of them were on the Discord. Most of them were pretty long. I probably won't be reading more than a couple of them. We didn't get anybody on Facebook, which is unusual, but hey, it happens. Apparently, I forgot to post it on Reddit, so there's nobody on Reddit. I apologize.
Oops.
Over on Twitter, that's Carl with a K, says, my first MMO RPG was Ultimate. He says Ultimate Online.
That might have been
an autocorrect.
Yeah, that might have been an autocorrect.
And because I just got my phone a few months ago, I hate autocorrect so much. It will autocorrect things that is like, no, I meant what I said. But then other times I will post something that's not even a word and it will just leave it.
Yeah.
Real frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyway, my first MMORPG was Ultima Online, one of the first ever. It was pretty instrumental in my love for RPGs in general. That's pretty cool. Collins B says, I spent a summer binge playing Fusion Fall, the amazing Cartoon Network MMO, and my personal favorite.
I do remember that, yeah.
I am not familiar with that at all. And then they say, as well as Pirates of the Caribbean Online. I didn't know that was a thing. Which was surprisingly good and became very roleplay heavy.
Okay.
Sadly, in the coming years, both were canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, I would play a Pirates of the Caribbean online.
I remember Fusion Fall very, very vaguely.
Yeah.
It was just like it was a Cartoon Network MMO. It was just, I think you could play on the browser or something. I can't remember.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Crit Academy says, yes, I play a bit of WoW and love Final Fantasy XIV. I love the story and experience of a large group of friends bringing down big bad extreme difficulty boss for the first time.
Yeah.
It's so thrilling learning a fight and struggling until you finally overcome the challenge. It really is awesome. Also, great source for adventure ideas and dungeons.
Right.
And I agree because I have wanted to run the Dead Mines in D&D for a very long time.
Sure, yeah.
For anybody not familiar, the Dead Mines was one of the lowest level dungeons in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
If you were on the Alliance side, it was the lowest level dungeon you could easily get to.
Yeah, I think it was around like level
16 or something.
Yeah, 16 to 20 or something like that.
And it was a fun dungeon. You're going through like these mines that are patrolled by this gang called the Defias Brotherhood.
Right.
And then you get to like, there's like a forge area where they've got like goblins making stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're in a giant cavern where there's a giant boat.
Yeah.
That you have to get to the top of the boat and then defeat the Defias Brotherhood leader.
Yeah.
It was really cool. If I ever do finish writing Keepers of the List, that was going to be a plot arc with some serial numbers filed off.
Sure. Sure.
I would love to run that as a D&D adventure, and there's tons of other stuff in every MMO that I'm sure would make great adventures for D&D. And yeah, I love just being a part of a large group that completes a really difficult task.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And over on Discord, we did get a bunch on Discord. I'm not going to read all of them because some of them are pretty long. Stilton Kubo 84 says, I've watched or helped people play several. He played Final Fantasy 14 mainly. The Beverage Tea says during his master's program, one of his classmates brought up using computer time to motivate students to finish their work, with the caveat not to allow them to play RuneScape since it could be dangerous as the students would not know with whom they were interacting with. I checked it out to see what the fuss was all about. I created a character and 4 years later, I finally stopped playing when my daughter was born. Of all the gameplay, what I remember most is interacting with people in my guild. Most were teachers from Australia, the UK, and every time zone in the US. We had a healthy mix of teacher-related and game-related conversations. If one of us were about to level up or get an achievement cape, which apparently is a thing.
I think so. I think.
We'd all get together and celebrate in-game. It was a great way to do professional development. Jason the Human says, I easily fall into games with a loot or XP loop, so MMOs made sense to me. I played WoW for a good while and Rift after that. The thing I started to notice is that there is so much content that story just fades into the background, and I at least just start racing to max level. These days, I just don't have the time for them. When I did play Rift, I did get into raiding with a small guild, which was cool. The coordination of everyone to take down a boss is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And Deborah Soar says, my favorite is Guild Wars 2, the illusionary dueler that is the Mesmer, fits me perfectly and isn't very common in other games. I also enjoyed the story of Star Wars, The Old Republic, but then again, I'm a sucker for anything made by BioWare.
Sure. So. Yeah, I do remember, I played a little bit of Guild Wars 2. Yeah, there was some neat class combinations you could do in that one. That was good.
Cool. I haven't played any of the Final Fantasy MMOs, but apparently there's a thing that people started doing in, I think it's 14, maybe it was in 11 as well, where I guess in that you can like change your class and stuff on the fly, and that like changes your appearance. And people started setting up macros that would like change class, use a flashy spell that like creates a big particle effect, change class again, use another thing. Basically, they would set up a macro that had like 20 different commands in a row that essentially was like a Sailor Moon transformation.
Right.
Where it's like their character is standing there, they do a thing, they make a big splash of energy, their character looks different, and then they cast some other thing of another big splash of energy, and now they're wearing armor, and then so on and so on. And I think that is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I would love to see stuff like that in person. I think that's really cool. Anyway. So that was last week's social media question. This week's question is, what is your favorite magic spell?
Ooh.
I felt like we had done this question before, but if so, I couldn't find it. So what's your favorite spell, Jeff?
I think it's Fabricate.
Fabricate's pretty good.
I just like Fabricate's really neat. I just like it because you could just build whatever. Like
you gotta have the materials, but
that's right. Yeah. So like Fabricate makes like crafting in the game like more instant. And it's like, so like being able to craft like, oh crap, we really need a ladder right now. It's like, okay, well there's a pile of sticks over there. You just cast Fabricate and like got a ladder. Now Fabricate's like a 5th level spell, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more advanced than you would really like by the time you have it, you don't need it. But
yeah. To an extent, yeah.
So like, but like by the time you're casting 5th level spells, you can cast fly. You don't need to build a ladder.
Right.
But, in the cases where it's like, oh, you got to fix we got to build the rest of this bridge so that the army can get across it or something like that. Like, oh, okay, I can handle that.
There was somebody in the 5th edition Facebook group that I'm in that they were asking if you could use the spell Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, which like creates an extra dimensional like mansion that's like fully stocked with like food and like places to sleep and invisible, basically unseen servants that will go around and do tasks for you. And they were saying, can I cast the spell and then use the servants to like craft a whole bunch of stuff? And somebody pointed out, I mean, you have to bring in all the materials, but yeah. And then I was thinking about it. Well, like if you're doing that, why not just cast Fabricate? It's 3 levels lower and doesn't take time to actually build anything. You just instantly turn the materials into finished goods.
Yeah.
Whereas with the servants in the Magnificent Mansion, you're bringing in the materials and then waiting for a bunch of people to build them to make them into stuff.
Huh.
You could just cast a much lower level spell to instantly have what you need.
Right.
If that's how you're using your Magnificent Mansion, go for it.
Sure.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. You turn into a factory at that point.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of cheating because everybody loves the spell, but Prestidigitation.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Wish.
No, I actually don't like Wish.
Yeah.
I think that, it's great, but like, especially 5th edition, the downside to casting it is so bad.
Yeah.
So, but Prestidigitation is extremely limited Wish. It is like a 0 level Wish spell.
Right.
Kind of. But I mean, everybody loves Prestidigitation, I feel.
See, I don't like Prestidigitation because people do try to treat it as a like limited level, like a 0 level Wish spell where they can do.
Why isn't it though? I mean, within the parameters of the spell,
right? It's hard for someone to wrap their head around what the parameters of a 0 level spell are. Versus, it's like if you're trying to do something that can be that if you're trying to do something with Prestidigitation that can be done with a level 1 or higher spell. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do that.
It just doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise why even bother learning the rest of the spells?
Yeah. If I were to choose a spell that is more specific than Prestidigitation, I would say a spell that I always really liked was Mislead. It is you immediately make yourself invisible, and then you also create an illusion of yourself standing right where you were standing.
That's the Displacer Beast of spells.
Well, I mean, I would argue Displacement is the Displacer Beast of spells.
Well,
but yes. So you can be like, okay, I cast Mislead. I'm going to go stand over there while my illusion goes and runs into combat or whatever. Maybe that's not the best idea because then they'll attack it and then realize it's an illusion or whatever. But I just think it's such a good spell. Mm-hmm. It's such a useful thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember that spell coming up a lot in like playthroughs of one of the Baldur's Gate games, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like a high level, once I got into like the higher levels where you come across like a caster or something, they always had mislead on them, and I'm like be like swinging at them and missing because they also had blur and mirror image.
Yeah.
You know, like and missing and finally hitting them, and then they're like, oh, they're over there. Like, dang it.
Yeah. In the game Enter the Gungeon, there are displacer beasts. They're called something else. I can't remember what they are, but they do something very similar. Like when you enter a room, there will be one of them that you can see, which if you kill it, it's just an illusion. And at which point the actual displacer beast will become visible.
Yeah.
You can attack it before it's visible. You just kind of have to know like where you just shoot over in the corner and you might hit it or whatever.
Sure.
And then if you kill the illusion and then you give it enough time, it'll glow like it's the illusion. And at which point the true one has already moved elsewhere.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I would say Mislead. I think Mislead is, if I had to pick something that was not Prestidigitation, it's just a fun spell. It's definitely got some obvious uses and pretty good. So hopefully some listeners out there are able to get some cool, interesting magic spells. It would be cool to see some that don't get used very often, but then at the same time, the ones that get used very often are the ones people tend to have as their favorites. So
right.
I can't blame anybody for picking, popular ones, but I'm curious.
Fireball.
Exactly. I almost said lightning bolt, actually. I think lightning bolt is it's not as useful as fireball, but I like it better.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no shame in having it being fireball. Fireball is a great spell.
Absolutely.
It's very iconic. It's very powerful.
Yeah. All right. So that will do it for our questions for today. So before we close out, I guess let's take a deep breath. Take a deep yawn there.
All right.
Let's remember those who have come before us, maybe those who have given their lives in a bad story so that we may have a good story.
Sure.
As we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. This week's funeral pyre story was submitted by Nathan H. Nathan also submitted last week's story, and I think I should have actually read this one before because this one sort of explains something we weren't sure about the other. I'll get to it.
All right.
So this one has a title, and it is The Beheading of Raelian the Dragonborn.
Ooh.
The party of PCs has morphed over time, but it started out 2.5 years ago with 6 PCs. 2 of them died in the first year, leaving Raelian, a promiscuous Dragonborn sorcerer played by Maggie D, as one of the 4 remaining original PCs. When the army of orcs led by the Dentists, and then it says here, listen to Crit Academy's episode from December 5th, 2018 for more on the Dentists. Essentially, they are demons.
Okay. They're not dentists.
I guess. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. I should know what... I've listened to that episode, I'm sure, but I'm blanking on what those are. Anyway, the Dentists attacked the city of Silvery Moon. Raelian and the other PCs valiantly battled the Dentists and the Orc King Norg. Raelian used many of her spells to defeat Dentist knights, leaving her weakened when King Norg appeared. Norg led several orcs and drow against the PCs. The battle raged all around them as Norg charged directly at Raelian. Raelian channeled her dragon breath, but Norg charged through and engaged her in melee. Right as the music, From on High by Epic Score, reached its climax, Norg dropped Raelian to 0 HP, then used his action surge to hit 3 more times, beheading Raelian in the middle of the city square.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, if Raelian was wearing that necklace,
maybe
Raelian would come back as a sword.
Or he would come back as Norg.
Maybe. Raelian's spirit entered the afterlife, where she finally got to seduce a god that she tried and failed to seduce during her life. I have to note that I coordinated with Maggie to kill off Raelian dramatically because Maggie had planned on transferring schools. However, she changed her mind after Raelian died, so now she has to start over with a new character. Glad to keep her in the group and glad that Raelian had a dramatic moment to shine, but man, the timing of that decision was unfortunate.
Yeah, oh well. So, you got a really epic story out of it. So,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, like, every character's got to have an end, so it might as well be a good one.
True. I guess, so let's raise a glass in memory of Raelian, who kept chasing that divine tail. Clink.
Clink. Oh my goodness. No.
Sorry. Well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes, and I might be trying to stream some arcade games on my own time in the future. I'm trying to set that up on my arcade cabinet computer. So hopefully we can do that. Hopefully it's easy, and then we could do
more streams.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Speaking of arcade games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about the show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Gabe, how do you recover from a bad outro?
Scrap it.
Okay.